Welcome back to Game Talk from the Bench. I'm your host, Drew Barreto. Today I'm here with my co-host, my uncle, Andrew Barreto. And today we got a little bit of NFL news. Finals did wrap up um, sooner than we were expecting. Um, Obviously, our weekly MLB standings plus news. We got a couple of big news from some star players. Formula One had a race in Barcelona that concluded in a upset of a win. And then obviously World Cup has started, so we will talk about that. But starting us off in the NFL, little small trade. Chiefs trade offensive tackle Wanya Morris to the Falcons for a late round pick swap. Obviously, Chiefs who have had problems before, lost the Super Bowl because the offensive line was really bad. Trading away Morris, obviously, for a 2027 sixth round selection. Obviously, Atlanta, a team that's kind of been struggling for the past couple of years, trying to find some hidden gems. Morris Stitz has started 16 games of the 3 seasons in Kansas City, including 11 in the 2024 Super Bowl run. And so, yeah, small trade. Like I said, nothing crazy going on in the NFL. Just Chiefs who are trying to bounce back from their really bad year this past season, and the Falcons are just like I said, trying to find some hidden gems to add to their offensive line.
Yeah, you have you're talking about the Chiefs, and I guess right now everybody's getting ready, prepping. Seems like training camp's starting to open up, and players are reporting. And being a Raiders fan, the Chiefs they scare me. I know we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but I just don't. Raiders didn't beat the Chiefs a lot, and so anytime they're now healthy with Mahomes back in action and some of the usual players there that we talked about on the Chiefs, and them adding it was the Super Bowl, drawing a blank on his name, that running back from Seattle.
Oh,
Um,
Kenneth Walker, yes.
yeah, Kenneth Walker. They're adding Kenneth Walker and adding these other pieces to get back to where playoffs or even playing in the Super Bowl. It's a little scary. So Raiders don't do well with against the Chiefs, and I don't like them getting better or signing anybody decent.
Speaking of the Raiders and the Chiefs, fun, I guess, fact or stat that came up. We'll give you a little hint of our World Cup preview. Messi has more wins in Arrowhead than Derek Carr. Now, take that with a grain of salt as you will. Messi obviously didn't have to go against prime Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. Obviously, Derek Carr did struggle a lot in Arrowhead, only going 1-9. But that was the fun fact that I saw today and had to be included with the World Cup. But
Yeah,
oh,
like I'm saying, they didn't have. It wasn't. I mean, we watched almost a decade of Derek Carr, and you're telling me he was 1-9. There wasn't a lot of success against the Chiefs, and even before that, we had this little 2000. When Gruden came around the first time, there was a little bit of success there. Um, I remember beating them, the clock winding down, and Gruden's. I want to say it was his first year. Yeah, now we're talking, what, 98, 99, something like that. And I think it was 98. And just the whole time before that, the Raiders did not beat the Chiefs. I mean, so needless to say, I'm not a big fan of them in all their winning franchise. Andy Reid being very successful there and going to the playoffs every single year, and having a failure year if they don't make the Super Bowl. So a little jealous, more. It's mostly jealousy, but yeah, anytime the Chiefs are looking to get better, it's a little scary. I mean, especially for me, as a Raider fan.
yeah, so hopefully they don't do too great. But our next news is it's some sad news around the league. Aldon Smith, former All-Pro linebacker, 2011 number 7th overall pick by the 49ers, has passed away at age 36. The team did not disclose his cause of death. And the really sad thing about that was obviously his career was derailed. But a few days before he passed, might have even been the day before he passed, he was handing out pizza to the homeless down in the Bay Area. And so, really sad news. Like I said, he was only 36. He was really young. So it's just not something you want to see. His family is donating his brain to CTE center. Because we all know CTE nowadays, especially, is really affecting. Even not even today, but even back in past 10, 15 years, CTE has really affected a lot of players in the NFL. So prayers to his family, but rest in peace, Alden Smith. But going to our next news, Texans wide receiver Tank Dell. Um, hasn't played. I know when I said I saw the news Tank Dell, I was like, wow, I almost forgot he's on the Texans. But yeah, the kid dealt with brutal back-to-back leg/knee injuries. He missed all of the 2025 season after dislocating his kneecap and tearing multiple ligaments. Um, in in December of his sophomore year. And if he's going to return healthy this year, that could be a big boost to the offense. For CJ Stroud, I know CJ Stroud and Tank Dell had a great connection. Obviously, they have, oh my goodness, what's his name? Nico Collins. Um, what's the tight end? I want to say Noah Schultz, but it's not. Dalton Schultz. So they have a good offense, and obviously we saw that offense really, take a huge hit when Nico Collins went down. So now, if any injury occurs, Tank Dell hopefully is healthy and is there for this Texans team. Like I said, this Texans team, we talked about it last week, has Super Bowl aspirations, and like I said, rightfully so. Now they're getting some help on the offensive side. We all know what their defense can do. Their offense lost them a potential Super Bowl last season, and so hopefully he can make a big difference.
Yeah, good news. Good to hear. I'm still a young guy, 26 years old, and something like you mentioned, the Texans desperately need. They need um, some young leaves. Hopefully, he comes back sooner than later, recovered and ready to play. I mean, it looked like it's 23, 24 season. He's got 709 yards in 2023. 600. So he's putting up some numbers there. Wow, his first year he had 7 touchdowns in 11 games. So I'm not sure if there's injuries back then, but yeah, that's probably a welcoming sight because that was one thing that failed the Texans in the playoffs was scoring points. And if he's back to playing the way he was prior to getting hurt, then yeah, it's a great weapon to have for CJ Stroud.
Talking about weapons, one of Patrick Mahomes' weapons, Rashi Rice, he was released from jail after his 30-day stint for car crash probation violation. So, don't know what his quote unquote punishment is from the league. Obviously, he's been in the news a lot. Just got out. A lot of videos were surfacing of him leaving. So we'll see what the NFL does with that if they do anything at all. Because I know he did serve a suspension this past season, I believe. And so, quick update on that. But our last news in the NFL: veteran Cam Jordan, defensive end Cameron Jordan, re-signs with the Saints for one final season in New Orleans. Jordan, who turns 37 in July, like I said, returns for his 16th season. Um, and so, Cam Jordan, I want to say Super Bowl winner, might be wrong. Could be. No, he's not a Super Bowl winner. 16th season. That means he joined 2010. He just missed their Super Bowl. Jordan, obviously, long time, like I said, long time New Orleans Saint. Played with Drew Brees. Phenomenal player, phenomenal edge rusher. One final season, he says, but with the Saints. Does that mean he'll retire after the season? Who knows? But that kind of looks the way. And so, one of the OGs in New Orleans will be heading out after this season. And so, I guess tough for New Orleans, who struggled ever since Drew Brees has left, but you got to move on. You got to find younger talent, and that's something that they've struggled to do with.
Yeah, you're talking about Drew Brees left, and that was their leader, and then I would say this guy, putting in the 16 years there in one spot, which is rare, right? You don't see that all the time. Usually, you see an opportunity for some of these bigger name players to leave in free agency, but he stuck it out. New Orleans, and it looks like he's 132 sacks. I'm looking at games played consistently 16-16 across 17 ever since 2023 when they started playing 17 games. So a guy you could count on, and when you lose, probably when you hear the news is probably a little different than Tank Dell's welcoming. Is like this one's a little bit more sad probably for New Orleans Saints fans. and coaches, because now you're losing again a leader on that squad on the defensive side, and yeah, it's regrouping time for the Saints. They're like you said, they've been going through some changes and coach changes and quarterback changes. So yeah, it's what a career though by Cameron Jordan.
Yeah, definitely, has himself, maybe in the Hall of Fame. Don't know if it's first ballot, but definitely has a great resume to put up for that. But moving on to the NBA Finals, like I said, they did conclude sooner than we were expecting. However, we covered games 1 through 3 in our last episode. We talked about the Spurs just choking away the games, and that is exactly what they did in Game 4. If there wasn't more of a choke job than what I've never seen anything worse than what the Spurs did in Game 4. Up 20. Oh, I did the post. 29 points at one point in Game 4. Blew their 29-point lead, lost to an OG Anunoby tip in with 1.2 seconds left, and they ended up falling 3-1 to the Knicks. And it was just, it was the biggest downfall, biggest fumble I have ever seen in a game so big. Obviously, I mean, I've seen like pretty big comebacks, but in a finals game, it's never been done before, and it was just unbelievable to see. Unbelievable. They fumbled game 4 once again. Offense went straight dry. They had fit 14 threes in the first half alone, and then couldn't buy a bucket in the second half. And I know I made the post. You even commented it. They got 3 happy. The they were in the bonus for quite some time, I believe, in the third, and they didn't try to attack the rim. And and that's a big coaching problem, right? As a coach, you got to see, hey, we're in the bonus. Let's get to the rim. We talked about it. Mitch Johnson he's still a young coach. Obviously, Greg Popovich probably would not have allowed that to happen. I know a lot of people are calling for Mitch Johnson's job, but when you look at it, the Spurs probably weren't anyone's pick to be in the finals. Um, some might say they overachieved, and that could be. But they're a young team. And so, and the young team makes a lot of mistakes, and that is what they did. In this finals, every single one on this team made their big mistake. And I don't know, what was your thoughts when you saw that 29-point comeback?
That 29, which, like you said, the largest in finals history. I mean, that was insane. The Knicks just kept chipping away, and at the score, and the thing is like, yeah, I commented that they just kept shooting threes, like they weren't going down anymore. They got that first quarter or first half where they made, what was it, 14 or something like that, and yeah, they were going down, but then they just went cold, and we're looking for that young moment from the Spurs where I personally thought they overachieved, because you have to go through these growing pains, as a team. I know we talked about the Warriors before. Warriors kept losing to the Clippers back then when Curry, 2012, when Curry and Klay Thompson, started, putting the Golden State Warriors on the map, right? You have to go through these growing pains, and they lost to the Nuggets, they lost to the Clippers in the playoffs, and the San Antonio Spurs didn't have that yet. Like I felt, yes, that's a perfect word, overachieved, and found themselves the third year Wembanyama already in the finals. Dylan Harper, he's a rookie, and the other guys too, 2-3 years in the league. Well, we saw them. The youth did come out, and the immaturity. I mean, even the coach is young, like you said. I mean, this was, I believe, his first year. And he even, I mean, that should have been called for a few more timeouts and tell him to, hey, get it inside to Wemby, go for 2-pointers. I realized New York's defense was just, playing out of their minds and forcing them to take those threes. But at the same time, I mean, use that clock up. You had 29 points, and I want to say even in the fourth quarter, it was a 15-point lead. So
Yeah.
you had a sizable lead there, and it just needed to be managed better. And obviously the team needed to take some better shots, and and yeah, that's all history. That was an amazing game to watch, and that OG Anunoby, yeah, they're already making cards about it. I already see some basketball cards
Yeah.
with the tip, how he's higher than everybody there. I mean, that was a miracle. And at that point, I was just like, okay, it's over. I don't think Spurs. How do you come back from that? I mean, that's just so. It takes everything out of you, right? I mean, they easily could have been up 3-1 in the series. Knicks were down every single game, 29 points in this particular game, and they lost the lead on this too. I mean, that's just gotta take everything out of the Spurs and the Spurs fan base. But yeah, I mean that game was something else.
Yeah, and it was unbelievable. You heard Mike Brand on the call saying this building is rocking. Madison Square Garden was just like an
Yeah,
earthquake in there. It was unbelievable. And then, down 3-1, everyone in San Antonio knows, they got to focus on game 5, and they did and they didn't. They led this game. They led throughout this whole game. They were leading, and then time and time again, Mitch Johnson made the same mistake by going with his veteran who didn't show up. He kept with going with De'Aaron Fox instead of his rookie, and what did that cost him? It cost him they cost him the game. I believe I saw the statistic. I can't get off the quite of my top of my head. It was De'Aaron Fox in the fourth quarter of the finals. Was either I think he was 9 of 35, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 7 for 35. But De'Aaron Fox in game 5, 7 points. He played 37 minutes, 7 points. Stephon Castle, yeah, he didn't play that great himself either. He only had 6 points, 32 minutes. Wembanyama only had 19. I mean, the rookie Dylan Harper, 25 points. He was the leading scorer. I mean, Dylan Harper. If anyone deserved to win that finals, it was Dylan Harper. Every single game, he showed up. I mean, yeah, some games he didn't play. He didn't shoot that great. Still did his part, and it was just phenomenal to see a rookie of his age, not much experience. Like I said, it was his rookie year of his stature.
right.
I mean, he looked like a vet out there. He looked like a vet out there. He looked like a vet when he was talking to the media and the press. I mean, he was phenomenal, and the Spurs cannot make the mistake of prioritizing De'Aaron Fox over Dylan Harper because it would be the biggest mistake in franchise history, and they would lose. Okay, hold on. Maybe not the biggest mistake in franchise history, but it would be a big mistake to not prioritize Dylan Harper because could be a situation like OKC back then. They could, lose their quote unquote James Harden. And that's because that's the type of player Dylan Harper is. He was phenomenal in these finals, and he's only going to get better. And so, as for the Knicks, I thought OG Anunoby was my finals MVP favorite. However, he did have a little bit of a stinker in game 5. Only 11 points. Jalen Brunson put up 45. It was kind of hard not to pick Jalen Brunson after that game 5 performance. They came back in the fourth quarter, ended up winning. I mean, it was just like it was 23-13 in the first, and then it was 24, and then it was 24-19. The Knicks won the second. Spurs won the third, and then in the fourth quarter, the Knicks put up 29 to the Spurs 18, and they lost by 4. I mean, Spurs, like I said, had every game, and they threw it. And it's like we said, it's just the woes of a young team. It's just part of the game.
The woes of a young team and the experience of a veteran team, right? Like all those guys, they've already been through the playoff series, whether it's with the Timberwolves or it's with the Dallas Mavericks and Brunson. They got together and they used all their experience, and that was their advantage over the San Antonio Spurs. Brunson just carried them on his back. I mean, there was just a point in the game where I'm like, this guy is not going to let them lose. He doesn't want to mess around and go back to New York or even play extra games. He was just, being aggressive. He 45 that night. Over 32.6 for the series. I mean, his series was phenomenal. So he was deserving of the MVP. Yeah, OG Anunoby, I thought I read something where he was he was about 67% from the field. So yeah, no, I get it. I
Yeah,
mean,
he was
he was
shooting over
also
50% from three. He was unbelievable.
yeah. So he was playing. Those guys together with Cat Towns. They played. It was a good finals, I would say. It was actually I was reading something from ESPN where it said it was the most watched finals since 1998. And that game there was Chicago against Utah. That was Michael Jordan's last game. I think New York's that big market too. You want right, like big. New York's going to have everybody with their, especially the way the series was going. I mean, there's a lot of talk
Yeah.
about Wemby and him being this maniac, and he's here to rule, to conquer the NBA, and then you have the 6'1" Brunson or 6'2", whatever he is, just not back down, just take it right to the Spurs and and get that victory. So yeah, I was just looking at that. It says the audience was 33 million for the game 5, which is the most since 1988, and overall it was 20.6 million. Here's the part I was going to bring. So last year's finals with OKC, we're talking smaller markets again. OKC against Indiana averaged 10.31 million across 7 games. So they
Wow.
drew a rating of 10.31 million, and compared to the Knicks,
It's
which
doubled.
was yeah. So that's the difference. That's why the NBA wants the Knicks and the Celtics and what I
Yeah.
mean, the Lakers inside. They just get higher ratings, and some honorable mentions there since Golden State victory over Cleveland in 5 games in 2017. That was 20.47 million watchers. 2016, where Cleveland defeated the Warriors, that was a 20.2 million. So that rounds out the largest one since 1998, Jordan's last game. But I mean, it was a good series. I want to
It
say,
was a great game. Like I said,
it could have went probably, give some wins to the Spurs. It didn't happen, but overall, I just thought the play, the Knicks just obviously outplayed them, out hustled them, out. They just wanted it more, and Brunson was out. That whole team was out to prove everybody uh, everybody wrong. Everyone talking smack, saying he's too small or he can't do this, or he lacks on defense. Those guys carry that chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove, and they congratulations to them. I know they have a big parade coming up soon, right? That's
what do
going
you
to be a
think?
part.
Yeah, but what do you think about this? His dad, right on national television, he said, "Son, I love you, but Patrick Ewing is still the greatest New York Knick ever," and
Oh, well,
that's kind of
you know,
that was
Rick Brunson, he was on that team
yeah,
in the last time they went to the finals,
yep.
and there's something that a lot came out about Brunson, but Patrick Ewing, yeah, he was pretty bad. But I think now that Brunson did what he did in the finals, gave the Knicks a championship for the first time in 53 years. Um, yeah, he doesn't have to buy another drink in New York ever again. I mean, he's probably superseded Patrick Ewing, because although Patrick Ewing is Hall of Famer, USA Dream Team member, I mean, he just didn't bring home that championship. Plenty of playoff moments, plenty of battles, but there was a guy, Michael Jordan, who was in the way a lot of those times, and
And then
as
when
you
he
know, he won 6.
yeah, and then when he
So
did get
he
there,
didn't lose it.
and then when Ewing did get there, he had to face
Yeah,
Duncan Robinson, and with Tim
yeah, and I want
Duncan,
to say he got injured too. I want to say he was injured, and that was kind of a miracle year there with the 19 what was it, 98 or 99.
yeah,
Um, Kind of had some miracle things working. Allen Houston had his little floater rimmed around in the final seconds, and they could have lost that first round, but they went in, and then they just had some good fortune in those series to come to reach the finals. It's just unfortunately they ran into the better Spurs team.
yeah. So as for the Knicks, obviously Jalen Brunson champion, Finals MVP. However, I don't know why every time someone wins and they're a point guard, everyone's got to compare them to the one and
No,
only Stephen Curry.
no, no.
Don't know why. Don't know why they're comparing him to Stephen Curry. Curry is the greatest point guard of all time, top five player of all time. Argue with the wall. Brunson, not close. As for the Spurs, like I said, disappointing that their veterans didn't show up. Keldon Johnson was really bad. Darren Fox was even worse. Mitch Johnson, I know he's not a veteran head coach, but the fact he didn't weigh on his veteran Harrison Barnes, who's won a championship and has played in big games before. I know he fell off the world in the 2016 finals. However, he was there in 2015 when they did win. So, yeah, brutal for the Spurs. New York wins. The city went crazy. Great season, like you said. Great series. Wish it
So
went more games, but
yeah,
couldn't have asked for
did you
anything more. And
did you see the Vegas already has the odds for the next champion. I don't have it in front of me. I should bring it up in front, but the Knicks they're not favored to go back. I mean,
they're
since
not.
the
And
last five champions.
I think they're one and done. I think
I was just going to say, what do you think? Do you think they
they're
have their
not going
starting
back.
five?
If the OKC Thunder couldn't go back to back this year, now granted they did, they were dealing with some injury. If they couldn't go back to back this year, I believe if the healthy OKC team played the Knicks, they would have won. But there's no shot the Knicks are going back to back. They are one and done. They are just getting older. Yes, they're coming off a championship year, but it is hard to get back, especially with the East becoming healthy. Tyrese Halliburton, who's a New York killer, will be healthy next season, and they'll have a high pick in the draft, I believe. I mean, it's gonna be harder. Young teams are gonna get more experience. The Pistons, who probably should have faced the Knicks, will be back. They'll be there with the experience. New York, as like I
Yeah.
said, one and done. They got their one. As for the Spurs, I saw people say, Wemby might not be back in the finals, but I think a team of Wembenyama, Castle, and Dylan Harper, like I said, if they prioritize Dylan Harper, kind of reminds you of the OKC Thunder back in 2012. Now, if they don't mess it up, they will be back. They'll be back. Wembanyama is not going to go down lightly. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. He'll be back. If Stephon Castle continues to play and get better, and so does Dylan Harper, they will be back in the finals and they will win. So from Spurs fans, obviously it's a tough one to swallow, but it's a young team. They will be back and they will win. As for the Knicks, celebrate, enjoy it. Most likely won't be back next year, but that's okay.
Yeah, you have the better bet if you're betting on the next champ, Spurs and OKC. They're the 1 and 2, and then you have the Knicks coming in at number 3, followed by the Celtics. Yeah, all the last 5 champs, one and done. That even dates back to the Warriors 2022. Okay, dated Denver. So they're Denver, Celtics, OKC, and now the Knicks. And I agree. I think somebody else creeps in there next year. Free agency. Who knows who's going to get signed where? Where does Giannis, change
Yep,
that Richter
should go to
scale
the
and
Warriors.
yeah, we'll see what happens, but
Yeah,
it's going to be tough. It's tough, as you can see, the last 5 years. It's tough going back to back. That's why we have to cherish those teams that compete. I mean, the Warriors won 5 years in a row from 2015 to 2019 to the finals. Won 3 of those, and yeah, it
should have
is
been
tough.
4.
Obviously, what's that?
Should have been. They should have won 4 of those 5.
Oh,
2019 still haunts me.
well, I mean, you even talk about 2019. They had all those injuries. KD was hurt. Klay
Yeah.
Thompson was hurt. I forgot. There was somebody else. In 2016, we all know about that. That's
Yeah, we
a
all know about that, but 20
suspension.
to me, 2019 hurts more than 2016. But yeah, no. And speaking of, like you said, NBA free agency, Trey Young, I just saw on my phone. He's opting out of his player option for the Wizards. It was like 48.5 million. He's opting out. He will become a free agent. Although Wizards are a top team for him, he will become a free agent in the upcoming days. So keep an eye out for maybe Trey Young ending up on a new team. But yeah, so draft is coming up soon. Santa Clara native, not Santa Clara native, but Santa Clara's very own
Alone.
Alan Graves will be in the draft. He didn't get invited. He got invited to the green room, so he'll be there. He's projected to be a first round pick, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, so season is over. Basketball won't be back till October. end of September, October. And so great season nonetheless. But moving on to MLB, we got MLB standings in the AL East. The Yankees have finally overtaken the Rays for first place. The Yankees are 44-27. They're 8-2 in the last 10. Rays have struggled. They're 41-30. They're 4-6 in the last 10. And the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox, without Munetaka Murakami, have taken first place in the AL Central. They are 38-33. They have been just a very surprising and underrated team. However, the Guardians are right behind them at 39-34. In the AL West, the Mariners are 38-36, followed by our very own, I almost said Oakland, Las Vegas A's. They're at 36-37. In the National League, Braves still hold the best record. No, not the best record in baseball anymore. Braves are 46-26. They have struggled. They are 4-6 in the last 10. Phillies are 40-34. Nationals are 39-36. And the NL Central, Brewers lead the division at 44-26, followed by the Cardinals, who are 40-32. And then in the NL West, the Dodgers are best record, best team in baseball, 48-27, followed by the Padres and the Diamondbacks, who are both at 38 wins. As for MLB news, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he lost his perfect game on Mookie Betts' error, and then he ended up losing his no-hitter. So that was a brutal sequence of events in the ninth inning for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We obviously did get a combined no-hitter this season. However, we're still looking for, um, I want to say, I guess, a solo pitcher no hitter since 2024. Yamamoto's been close a few times. He's lost it a couple of times in the ninth, so he's been very unlucky. Very unlucky.
Yeah, I would
Um,
say it's ninth inning.
yeah, ninth inning error, and then obviously he gave up the hit, so he lost both. Brewers ace Jacob Mizorowski makes MLB history with his first 15 strikeouts in a quote-unquote Greg Maddux type of game where he threw less than 100 pitches in a complete game shutout. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He's probably the Cy Young favorite with Ohtani, been struggling in his last two starts. And then it's not on here, but Pete Armstrong, he hit for the cycle the other day. We obviously know he's a guy with phenomenal speed and defense. Hit for the cycle, got his triple, he got his home run triple, double, and his single was actually his final hit to complete it. So Pete Armstrong completed the cycle, and then he got picked off right after. Yeah, but hey, it's okay. So that is that for MLB news. Nothing crazy going on. We're getting closer and closer to the All-Star break. Um, but moving on to Formula One, we had a race in Barcelona, and obviously we know Kimi Antonelli leading the Drivers' Championship. Obviously, Mercedes, the fastest car, was not the case this year. Um, George Russell took pole, and behind him was Lewis Hamilton, the 41-year-old Ferrari driver. Started second, Antonelli started third, and in this race, George Russell led, but a Lewis Hamilton three-stop um, race got him in P1. He was lucky enough to get a virtual safety car, got himself in front of Russell, and he was just absolutely flying. He was flying. Russell and Antonelli were racing each other, but before Antonelli's car gave up on him, he ended up DNFing. Lewis Hamilton ends up winning his first race since, 2021, I want to say, and I might be wrong about that. But he ended up winning his first race in Ferrari, win 106. George Russell was second. Lando Norris was third. A lot of DNFs in this race. Lewis Hamilton is second in the Drivers' Championship, and he's cut down the lead to only 41. So no race this week, but it was a great race in Barcelona nonetheless. Great to see Lewis Hamilton back on top of the podium. And Ferrari looking to contend with Mercedes, and Lewis Hamilton looking to win World Drivers' Championship number 8. So that was pretty amazing to see. Like I said, no race this week, but we'll continue to update throughout the year. But to end us off, the event that happens once every 4 years, the World Cup, it is in, part of it's in the U.S., but it is currently on, and It has been phenomenal. I've been trying to keep up with as many games as I can. Um, it's a lot of games that went on. And a lot of surprises. Mexico and South Korea, not South Korea. Oh my goodness, I have the standings up, not the games. Oof. But Mexico, they played South Africa. They ended up winning 2-0. They looked great. South Africa struggled a lot. Their defense was they played really bad as a whole. Watching that game, I then watched South Korea versus Czechia, and the Koreans, they obviously have a popular player, Son. Forget his last name. Um, but yeah, Korea they end up winning 2-1. So Czechia, it was their first time. I want to say their first time in the tournament ever, if I'm not mistaken. They got a quick goal. Korea then responded and ended up taking a 2-1 win. Everyone in Group B tied. Switzerland should have beat Qatar at Levi Stadium. However, Qatar ended up tying it in extra time. So everyone in Group B is tied of between Switzerland, Canada, Qatar, Bosnia, and I forget the last part of their name. Group C consists of Scotland, Morocco, Brazil, and Haiti. Brazil and Morocco played. They end up tying, and Scottish, I would say, yeah, Scottish team ended up beating Haiti 3 to no, ended up winning 1-0. Group D consists of USA, Australia, Turkey, and Paraguay. I did watch the USA game. I don't know if you did. USA played phenomenal against Paraguay. Christian Pulisic only played one half, but he was very impactful. Balogun scored 2 goals. Um, Weston McKennie, quote unquote, kind of got a goal. However, it was an own goal. And then Gio Reyna hit a Trivela um, in the closing minutes. Paraguay did get a goal back, but yeah, they dominated that game. They play Australia on Friday, and Australia beat Turkey 2-0. And so Australia and the U.S. looking to come out of Group D. Group E, Germany dominated Curacao. It was Curaçao's first time in the tournament, so that was kind of to be seen. Germany ended up winning 7-1. Didn't watch it. Ivory ended up beating Ecuador. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. Group F, Japan and Netherlands tied, which was huge for Japan because Netherlands is known as a powerhouse. Not a powerhouse, but is known as one of the better teams in the World Cup every year. Sweden ended up beating Tunisia, 4-1. So that was a big win for Sweden. Everyone in Group G is tied. They all tied: New Zealand, Iran, Belgium, and Egypt. Same thing with Group H: Uruguay, Saudi Arabia, Spain. Spain tied with Cabo Verde. That was a big surprise of the first couple of games. Yamin Lamal only did play 15 minutes due to coming back from injury. He's expected to play 60 minutes in their next game, but we'll see how that is. Group I, Norway, their first time in the tournament, back in some time, I believe, led by Erling Haaland. They're up there with France. They both won. Norway played Senegal or Iraq, one of the two, and then France played. No, France played Senegal. Norway played Iraq, and both Norway and France win. Those two will most likely come out of Group I or Group L. No, Group I. And then Group J, Argentina. Messi had a hat trick in their game against Algeria. He is looking to become the most goals scored ever in a World Cup. Austria did beat Jordan last night, 3-1, in the Bay Area. Group K, only the DR Congo and Portugal played, and they tied. They tied this morning. Portugal tied or drawed with DR Congo, and that was a big surprise. Portugal is one of the favorites to win it all, and they end up tying. Colombia and Uzbekistan will play either later, I believe, later today, or it might be on right now. And then in Group L, England played Croatia earlier, and it was a phenomenal game. England did come out on top 4-2. And then Ghana played Panama. They ended up winning 1-0. Geez, there's so many groups. But yeah, so World Cup is on. It has been great so far. We've just gotten through the first kind of rounds of games. So should be good. should be fun to watch. It's been crazy. All the fans have been coming to the U.S. And before they even came, they were all talking trash about it being in the U.S. But they've been loving the stadiums. They've been loving the places that games have been at. So it's been pretty cool. Obviously, Koreans in Mexico. That's been cool to see. I haven't heard much about the games in Canada, but I've heard things have gone well so far with the games in the U.S. and in Mexico. So,
And you're
um,
on the ground floor, right? You're over there at Levi Stadium.
yeah, I
Or
am.
maybe they're not called Levi's, right? They have
No,
the
they're called the
signage
San
change.
Francisco. Yeah,
Oh,
called the San Francisco Bay Area Stadium. Yeah, in Santa Clara. Yeah, first game it was cool. I didn't know teams do marches. Um,
okay. Yeah.
So the first day, Switzerland did a march. It was kind of cool, seeing all the fans coming down one of the main streets. Um,
Oh,
Jordan and uh, who played in Austria? They both did marches. I didn't see Austria's march, but I did see Jordan's. They were loud. For their first time being in the tournament, they were loud. They had the drums. It was pretty cool. So yeah, the fans are all out. It's cool to see. Everyone's. No, not really much hostility in the games I've seen and been at, but yeah,
okay.
it's been a great event around the world, and it'll be fun to keep up on. So we'll
Absolutely.
update you guys on that more. Like I said, I'm trying to watch as many games as I can. However, there's like three in a day, and sometimes I'm busy and can't catch them, but doing my best. But yeah, that is all for today. Thank you all for tuning in. I'd like to thank my co-host, my uncle, for joining me today. He's not the biggest soccer guy. Hopefully
Well, you
he'll
got
catch
you
some
got
games.
groups. You have groups all the way to L, man. I was,
Yeah.
starting to nod off. You got to group G. I go, okay, that's good. I also don't see Peru on here, but I'm going.
No.
I'll take Mexico though. I'll go. Of course, the U.S. of A. But some of these other teams here, and I'm familiar with some of these players. Not too much, but like you mentioned, Brazil and Argentina and teams like that who've been there before and have the usual players, usual suspects. But maybe now that I know there's this many, maybe I'll just wait to the how about the second round of
Yeah,
32.
round of 32. There we go. Yeah.
Okay, I'll start following in because right now it's like wow, this is a lot of groups. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of teams, a lot of teams. I almost forgot. In the NHL, the Hurricanes ended up defeating the Golden Knights in 6 games to win the Stanley Cup. Not a hockey guy, but it's sports. Got to throw it out there. But yeah, one last time, thank you all for tuning in. We get post out episodes usually out every Wednesday. However, I had to postpone this one. This will be out on Thursday. You'll get my initial reactions to games. I've gotten a lot of those out of the finals. We'll get post outs throughout the week. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify. And until next time, stay ready.